secondary grade, and welcome to a new episode of our program, Bank of Knowledge. On this episode, it's biology time, so we're going to explain chapters or modules. Hello, Ms. Violet, and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I guess we're going to start
with kingdom. To many. Now we are in Yuglino. Of moves by food by photosynthesis process. Next phylum called Chrysophyta. The Chrysophyta includes another type of amazing creatures. They are marine organisms. They are unicellular, as you see, and they have many shapes. These creatures are called diatoms. Actually, diatoms under the light microscope, we can find them like crystals. They emit or reflect light because they have glassy walls. This is one of the diatoms, magnified. And these diatoms have great economic importance because they are autotrophic organisms. So they store a large amount of food with large amount of energy. So they are considered as food for young fish. By these organisms, the food chains in marine water starts. Another type of phyla or creatures, this phyla is called Birophyta, and the Birophyta includes phytoplanktons, and these phytoplanktons are also unicellular organisms. They live in marine water, and they include many types of flagellates, like the dinoflagellates, as you see here. These dinoflagellates are acquired red pigments beside the chlorophyll, so they are autotrophic as well, and they have red pigments. If the dinoflagellates reproduce greatly, they increase in number and cause the red tide phenomenon. As you see in this picture, the dinoflagellates with red color are huge in number, so they cause the red tide phenomenon, and this red tide phenomenon causes the death of many marine creatures. Now, my dear students, it's your time to carry out a comparison between kingdom Monera and kingdom Protista. The points of comparison, we need to compare between the organisms in each kingdom, and we put in mind the number of cells. And as you know, the living organisms in kingdom Monera and Protista are unicellular, all of them. The cell structure in terms of the cell walls, the components of the cell or the organelles found inside each one of them, and the presence of nucleus. Reproduction, the way of reproduction, sexually or asexually, and nutrition, the mode of nutrition, which may be autotrophic or heterotrophic. Now it's time to start the kingdom fungi. When we say kingdom fungi, we have to bear in mind that all of these organisms are heterotrophic organisms. They don't have chlorophyll. They are not autotrophic. So this is the one of the important characteristic in kingdom fungi. So they are heterotrophic organisms. They can be parasites or saprophytes. Some are unicellular, like yeast, and we are going to study it. And the majority are multicellular. They are immobile, that means they cannot move by themselves. Kingdom fungi includes many phyla. We will study 3 of them: phylum Zygomycota, Ascomycota, and Basidiomycota. The Zygomycota, we have an example here, Rhizobus nigricans, that we call bread mold fungus. This mold grows on bread, and as you see here, it is composed of many filaments, and the collection of these filaments are called mycelium. So in one point, you can notice the presence or the growth of root-like structure like rhizoids, called rhizoids, and from the same point, many extensions go vertically upwards in the air, and each one of them is called the sporangiophore. The sporangiophore carries a sac-like, and inside this sac there are many spores formed, so this is called sporangium. So rhizoids downwards into the bread, and the sporangiophore up into the air, and at the end of the sporangiophore there is a sac called sporangium containing spores. When these spores become mature, the sporangium opens and a great number of spores are spread everywhere, and because they are light in weight and small in size, they are stay suspended in the air until they fall on a suitable medium like bread, containing suitable temperature and present in suitable temperature and containing a suitable amount of humidity, so the spores germinate again to produce new mycelium. So reproduction here is done by spores. The other division or other phylum is called Ascomycota. The Ascomycota includes 2 types of organisms, as we see here. Unicellular organism, which is the yeast, and the yeast reproduces by budding. It's one type of asexual reproduction. And the penicillium, which another type of mycelium, grow on the orange or lemon fruits. So the mycelium here grows on the orange or lemon. And if you can notice that the mycelium here in penicillium is divided into segments. So they have septa. The septum is that wall divides the 2 cells or separates between 2 cells. This is not present in the bread mold. So some of these fungi or some of the mycelia have septa or septate, and others are not septate. And if you can notice here in this picture, the spores grow in one row, not like the sporangium in bread mold. So it is another way of producing spores. The biggest one is at the end, and the smallest one towards the mycelium itself. And when it grows, it goes out, and another spore will be formed. So also reproduction here by spores. The third division is called Basidiomycota. Basidiomycota includes the mushroom. And the mushroom is one of the food types that we feed on, but some of them are poisonous. Not all mushroom types are edible. And as you see, the structure of this mushroom is composed also of great number or great amount of mycelia. The mycelia are formed of hyphae. The hypha is one of these filaments. So the stalk is composed of hypha, and there is a cap or umbrella-like, and the inner wall of the umbrella contains what's the structure like the gills, and we call it the gills. In between the layers of these gills, the spores are produced. So reproduction in mushroom also by spores. So again, the characteristics of kingdom fungi, most of them or all of them are heterotrophic parasites or saprophytes. And when we speak about the fungi, we can speak about the diseases. Parasite types, they cause diseases to the plants or to animals and men. So, and other types of fungi are saprophytes that decay dead bodies and organic remains, like some kinds of bacteria, and they are very important for the environment. Now we go to kingdom planta. The kingdom planta includes many types of plants, and because it includes a great variety of plants, we can find some of them live inside water, because living in water is very simple or simpler than living on land. So we can find some of the simple plants live in water and others live on land. But my dear students, when we speak about plants, we have to bear in mind that all of them are autotrophic. Even if we find some exceptions that can parasitize on other plants, but even those parasites are autotrophic and heterotrophic in the same time, because they have green leaves and they have chlorophyll. So the general characteristics of kingdom planta include the eukaryotic organisms. Their cells walls contain cellulose. Their cells contain chlorophyll in green plastids. Most of them are reproduced by sexual reproduction, because most of them, but some of them can reproduce by other ways. They include higher algae, non-vascular plants, and vascular plants. So let's start by studying the first kingdom, the first phylum. In kingdom planta, as you see in this diagram, it includes many phyla. The first one is called phylum Rhodophyta. The second one, phylum Phaeophyta. The third one is phylum Chlorophyta. These include the types of algae. And as we said, that algae live inside water, so they live in a simple way. They have simple structure, and all of them contain chlorophyll. The fourth phylum is called Bryophyta, and the fifth one is called Tracheophyta. And the Tracheophyta, many classes. One of them is the fern plants. The other one is gymnosperms or gymnosperma, and the third one is angiosperms or angiosperma. And the angiosperms include the monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous plants. Let's start with the first phylum. Phylum Rhodophyta. The example is Polysiphonia, and this alga is red alga, as you see. Even it contains the green plastids or chlorophyll, but the red pigments are the majority and dominate over the green color. They are marine weeds. They are composed of filaments, and these filaments are stuck together by a gelatinous coat. They contain chromatophores, and these chromatophores contain red pigments. They are simple. They are present in marine water. The other phylum is called phylum Phaeophyta. The Phaeophyta includes the algae, which also live in marine water and contain the chlorophyll beside other pigments, that is brown pigments. They are marine weeds, consist of simple or branched filaments. So as you see here, when we study new phylum, we go up to the complexity and towards the development. So in each phylum, we can find the organisms are more developed than the previous ones. So they are branched filaments and contain the chromatophores containing brown pigments, as you see in this picture. And the example here is called fucus. The third phylum is Chlorophyta, and because of chlorophyll, it is called Chlorophyta. So these are the green algae, and this green algae can be unicellular, like the Chlamydomonas, as you see in this picture. And you can notice the movement of Chlamydomonas by the two flagella shown in this picture. So they can move in this video by the flagella. The green plastid here is cup-shaped plastid. It's including or occupying the most of the cell, like the picture shows. So it is green plastid in cup shape. But Spirogyra is another type of flagella, which is another type of algae, and this algae is composed of one row of cells, similar cells. So it is multicellular organism. And you can notice the separation or the walls between the two cells here. But the most significant character here is the chloroplast. The chloroplast is in a spiral shape, runs from the beginning of the filament and ends to the end, going through the cells one each after the other one. So they are unicellular or multicellular. They contain chloroplasts, so they carry out photosynthesis and present most of them in fresh water and some in marine water. We are still studying plants in plant kingdom. We are in phylum 4 called Bryophyta or mosses. This word is common, mosses. The Bryophyta includes terrestrial plants, or the plants live on land. They do not contain specialized vascular tissue. That means they don't have xylem or phloem tissue as we find in the higher plants. So we call them non-vascular plants. They live in damp soil and shaded places, and this environment could be present in the tropical region where the rain is present all over the year, and the high trees make the shades or shaded places where these organisms live or these plants live. So they live in damp soil and shaded places. They are small in size, green in color, and have certain hairs called rhizoids. So they don't have a structure like the higher plants, true root or true stem or true leaves, but they have something like root, something like stem, or something like leaves. The two examples here are Riccia and Fionaria. Riccia is a flat moss. As you see in this picture, it is flat and grows parallel to the soil surface, and there are rhizoids from the lower surface to fix itself into the soil. Also, it is green, so it contains chlorophyll to carry out photosynthesis. The other type is Fionaria, and the Fionaria is erect, as you see in the picture. Also, they have rhizoids, root-like, and stem-like, and sometimes leaf-like, like this. And the Fionaria goes erect or into the air above the soil surface. So the examples are Riccia and Fionaria. The fifth phylum is called Tracheophyta. When we speak about Tracheophyta, we have to remember the vascular plants. The vascular plants, that means they have xylem and phloem. These plants have specialized vascular tissues, xylem and phloem, for transport. Of course, xylem to transport the water and dissolved salts from the soil up to the stem and the leaves, and the phloem carries the food manufactured in the leaves all over the plant, up and down. So the xylem and phloem are composing the vascular tissues for transport. This phylum is classified into three classes: class Feliceti or ferns, class Gymnospermae, and class Angiosperm. Let's start with Feliceti, class Feliceti, and this is fern plants. The fern plants are huge in number, and they live also in the damp soil and shaded places, and the wall of wells where the water is present, because water is very important for these plants to carry out the reproduction process, because these plants produce male gametes which swim in this water until they reach to the part of the plant where the female gametes are present to carry out the reproduction process, and this is one part of its life cycle. You are going to study this type of plants in details in third secondary, inshallah. So they are herbs, and few of them are shrubs or trees. So they differ in size. They live in shaded damp soils or regions and the walls of wells. They have stem, leaf, and root, because they are vascular plants, so they have true tissues like higher plants. This phylum, Tracheophyta, includes Feliceti, as we said, and the fern plants here, the examples are Polypodium and Adiantum. In this picture, you can notice the patches, the red patches, arranged in the pinnate, and these patches contain the spores which they used in reproduction in a part of its life cycle. They carry pinnate leaves and do not produce flowers, so we call them non-flowering plants. They don't have flowers and, of course, no fruits and seeds. They reproduce by spores that found on the lower surface of the leaves. As you see in this picture, it's very clear and very beautiful. Now the class Gymnospermae, or we call them conifers, and the example here is pinus. The pinus plant containing trees or composed trees, and a few of them are shrubs. So the conifers could be trees or shrubs. They reproduce by flowers and seeds, and they produce flowers and they carry male and female cones, and this is very clear in the picture. They reproduce by cones, so we call them conifers. And the cones contain seeds, naked seeds, and needle-shaped simple leaves.
All right, Ms. Violet. Well, this is the end of our program, so I'd like to thank you very much for being with us and for your interesting explanation of this lesson.
Next time we complete, of course.
Thank you. So that brings us to the end of this episode, dear students of the first secondary grade. We've had Chapter 2 of Unit 4, Kingdom of Fungi, and we'll be carrying on with our explanation of biology on the upcoming episodes. So I hope that you do follow us, and we'll be with you again later, inshallah. So until then, wish you all the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.